Today on the podcast, we have Scott McDonald. He's the CEO of Body Solid. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Um,
Happy to be here.
well, yeah, thanks again. Would you mind? It looks like you've been CEO at Body Solid for about 20 years. Can you tell us maybe what you were doing before and what brought you to Body Solid?
Well, I did not come from the fitness industry originally. I was involved in the business, point of purchase display business. Actually, going way back, I started out my career in finance. I was a lowly banker, but worked for a long time as a financial officer for a company in the point of purchase display and corrugated boxes and things like that. Did that for quite a while and left there and originally joined Body Solid, as you said, about a little over 20 years ago as the CFO, the chief financial officer. The company at that time was about 15 years old. It had been founded by three gentlemen, which we can tell that story later if you'd like. And I was coming in kind of to help with operations as well as finance. And long story short, fairly quickly after about a year, the three original founders elected to retire and step back from day-to-day operations, and I was able to step up with my current partner to start running the business at that point in time.
So, like 20 years ago, how did Body Solid compare to what they are today?
Well, it's such a, the industry, particularly the way we sell, at that point in time, which, you're talking about the early 2000s, certainly the internet was here, but the internet that we know today is so much different, particularly from an e-commerce standpoint. E-commerce was, particularly in the fitness industry, was fairly frowned upon. The way our company and pretty much everybody in the industry sold was very geographically focused. You'd have, we're based in Chicago. You'd have one set of dealers in Chicago that you dealt with, and you did not sell to everybody else. Well, of course, the internet breaks down all those kind of geographical lines, and today, the way we sell has just changed dramatically because we still have a very strong dealer base that we support 100%. But you can't ignore the internet either, and I think there's been a good hybrid model that's been developed over the years.
What about just like the home gym personnel, you should say just the home gym market? Have you seen a noticeable change since you've started working at Body Solid?
Oh yeah, I mean so when I first came into the market, I would say that home gyms were the thing. People were very interested in, and Body Solid was one of the leaders at that point in time. And when I talk about home gyms, I'm talking about the pieces of equipment that are stack weight home gyms. That typically have one, two, or three, sometimes even four stacks. Back in the way back machine, we used to call them universal machines when I was a kid, because that was the name of the manufacturer in those days. But they were very common, and functional training was really just getting started. Free weight training certainly existed. That predates the home gym industry. But I mean, let me digress again. I know we're talking about home gyms as a concept, gyms that are in the home, and I will confuse the hell out of your listeners by calling home gyms the machine a home gym as well. So I'm going to have to probably try to be a little bit careful about how I talk about this. But right now I'm talking about the equipment of home gyms, the machine of a home gym. Free weight being, power racks, Smiths, and so forth, has always been there and been a big part of the industry. But I think that has really become much of a larger portion of the industry in the last 20 years. I think a lot of things have driven it. If I could point to one thing that's probably driven it, would probably be CrossFit has been huge in driving people using free weights as opposed to what we call the selectorized or stack weight machines. And then functional training has become a thing. And, and when I look at, if I'm talking to a brand new physical fitness person who's interested in, getting into fitness maybe for the first time, strength training specifically, home gyms are still a wonderful thing. And again, the equipment of a home gym. because it's very prescribed. It's very easy to learn. It's fairly intuitive in how you learn how to use it. That you sit on a seat and you push a bench press. You do a leg curl, whatever the particular exercise that happens to be on that machine is. It's very easy. It's very safe. But it's very one dimensional or two dimensional. It's limited in how you can address the specifics of your muscle groups and things like that. So then, we started getting into functional training fairly aggressively. And my time frame may be wrong, so don't check me on this, but I'm going to say, 10 to 15 years ago, functional trainers really started becoming a bigger thing. I mean, we always had cable crossovers, but then they're brought closer together. They were made a little bit nicer. But functional training is awesome because it gives you a lot of flexibility. It has the same safety as a home gym, but it requires a little bit more knowledge to use it. And when I talk about functional training, I'm sure most people on this podcast know, but either way, it's a cable machine that's got cable, usually an adjustable cable that goes anywhere from your shoe level all the way up to over your head. And you can adjust it in, every couple of inches up and down a column. Usually there's one on each side that you can use. And, with a bench, a bar, and a few other pieces of equipment, you can do just about everything you do on a home gym, but you got to have to kind of know what you're doing. And that's where it gets a little bit more difficult. And then we go to free weights. And again, free weights, I think, have seen a big growth. Again, I think the growth of the smaller personal training studios of CrossFit have really driven that really well. And then you've seen some really, really good products that have come into the market too. It used to be, power racks were a 4x4 rack with, maybe some safeties and J cups and things like that. And, today, I was, as I was doing a little preparation for this, we make a power rack that's got almost over 25 different attachments that we can put on it. They range anywhere from a plyo box to a ball target, and so forth and so on. And so, and there's been a lot of creativity that's gone into the power rack area that has made free weight training accessible, I think, to people, both from a safety standpoint and from an affordability standpoint. And so that's become a bigger portion of the market today than it certainly was 20 years ago.
Got it. When did you see the rack attachment shift happening? Is that more like the last 5 years or so, or?
Yeah, I can tell you what, COVID just has thrown a wrench into everything from trying to remember time frames. It seems like before COVID and after COVID is the easiest thing that I can remember now. But it was certainly before COVID, but there's been just so much growth in that area that and really creative efforts in creating different attachments. One of our more recent releases is a rower that fits on. It's basically the same as a normal cardio rower. Fits on a low curl cable on some of our racks and some other people's racks too. It's simple. It's not that crazy to think about, but it's a great little attachment to a power rack that allows you to do rowing movements, I'm not talking about bent rows, but actually the sliding rowing movement like you might do on one of our endurance rowers, or probably to talk about one of my competitors, the Concept 2 rower, which everyone's familiar with. Now we've got a couple of people have got this, as do we as well, the functional trainer attachments that are fitting on the front of a power rack as well. And that's a really neat hybrid approach to doing free weights, as well as having what I was talking about a second ago about the wonderful functional training aspects. Because again, if you're alone in a workout facility, whether it's your home or somebody else's, being able to do something that's safe is important to you, and being in functional training is a little bit safer than free weights.
I think to help answer a few of my next questions I have, it'd be great to hear. You mentioned endurance and Body Solid, a separate brand. Could you kind of talk about everything
Sure.
that you sell that's kind of underneath the Body Solid umbrella?
Absolutely. I mean, Body Solid. Our approach to the fitness market for a long time has been to try to really give people as many options as they can, whether they're a brand new fitness enthusiast or if they're someone who've been, working out for decades and are looking to, expand, add on to, replace things in their home gym, or for that matter, in a commercial studio. Our roots, going back 35 years, were in home gyms and home fitness equipment in general, benches, racks, etc. And then over the years, what we've done is we've kind of divided our lines into a couple of different brands. It helps the consumer identify what they want, but also allows us to market them in different ways. All of them are attached to the Body Solid name, but from a strength standpoint, our top of the line home and light commercial line is under Body Solid. Best known, we were the first to have a home lifetime home warranty, which we still have on our and very strong commercial warranties as well, which we have on our Body Solid equipment. You step down the line to our Powerline brand, which is officially branded Powerline by Body Solid. Powerline's a great line. Great line. It's sold more on the internet than it is, in retailers, and it's still got a great warranty, 10 years in home. It's not appropriate for commercial use in most cases, and that's our line down from the Body Solid. And then we also have an introductory line, really good for somebody who's just getting into fitness. Great for the internet because most of the stuff ships in one box. It's easy to assemble. And that's our best fitness line. And those are our major strength lines. We have Body Solid Tools, which is our line of accessories, and really everything that falls under that, anything from jump ropes to medicine balls to iron products. And we've got approaching 1,000 SKUs now, 1,000 different items that we sell. The Body Solid Tools adds a lot. You've got a fitness bar, for example, that has 15 different weights going from 2 to 24 or high 30 into the 30s, I think. And then we have Endurance, which is our cardio line. It's a limited cardio line, and it's not where we put as much focus as our strength, but it's a good quality line, and we have everything you can think in there: treadmills, rowers, fan bike, stationary bikes, ellipticals, etc. And then we go on up to our commercial lines, which goes under a Pro Club line, and that line is predominantly strength focused. So that's, in a nutshell, all our brands.
Got it. And can you share which one makes up the biggest proportion of your business?
Probably definitely our Body Solid line, because it's a good line because it does straddle, home and light commercial, so it can go both places. If you want to go full commercial, we usually recommend the Pro Club line. For just pure home use, though, Powerline is fine for most people. For someone who's an enthusiast who's really going to use the product a lot, and might have friends over to use the product, Body Solid's a great line.
And then, over the past 10 years or so, there have been companies like Rep, Titan, Fringe, all pop up, geared specifically for the home gym crowd, specifically strength training as well. I'd be curious to hear your perspective on them and how maybe Body Solid is different from them.
Well, they're all really good companies, and we're fortunate to have what I would call a strong and mostly friendly rivalry with our competitors. I think the big difference between the companies you mentioned and us is that they are selling directly to the consumer, whereas we are selling through retailers, both online as well as in your neighborhood. And we believe strongly that there's a healthy amount of consumers who want to have that touch and feel, be able to see the product before they actually buy it, and more importantly, to have some guidance from somebody who knows what they're doing. I mean, your typical fitness retail store in the United States today is staffed by personal trainers, people who really know what the heck they're doing in fitness. And so when you walk into one of those stores and say, hey, I want to accomplish X, I want to lose weight, I want to get a six-pack abs, I want to look good on the beach this summer, I want to get stronger, I want to train for football, whatever it is, that individual is going to hopefully be able to guide you through some of the things I talked about. Is do you need free weights? Do you want free weights? How much space do you have in your house, your basement, your garage, wherever you're going to put the product? Who else might be using it? Is it for you? Is it you and your spouse or your children? Maybe your children are 3 years old right now and not doing weight training, but they may be doing weight training when they're 10, 12, 15, 20, and while still living with you. And this product hopefully is going to last that long. Where do you think you're going to want? Are you going to, do you want to have free weights when you have a 7-year-old running around? Maybe not. You might want to consider something different. And so they're guiding. Hopefully, they're guiding you through that process. And so we believe strongly in that. That said, we obviously sell a lot on the internet. Everybody does. You can't not sell on the internet, and we have that ability. But then, even if we sell on the internet fairly substantially through some of those same dealers, and they've got people you can call. So if you can't get to a dealer, you can get on the phone, and if all else fails, you can call my customer service group or one of my sales folks. And while we can't sell directly to you, we can certainly guide you through that decision process, and we're happy to do that. But going back to your initial question, those companies are selling direct to consumers off their websites. They've got some really nice products. They've been very, very innovative in many cases. I see, some of them are getting a little bit more broad based out of the fitness industry sometimes, or out of true fitness products, going into things like clothing and what have you. That is fine. That's part of their strategy, but that's there. Then you get to, selling more of a brand than selling a good quality product necessarily. And I do think that unfortunately, because I don't send out an email every week trying to get you to buy a product from me. We're not as well known. We fly a little bit under the radar, but we have products that I will stack up with any one of those guys. And a lot of times our product is quite a bit less expensive, depending on which items you're looking at, and is perfectly exactly what somebody wants in their home. And then I'll just add in the one thing is. And it doesn't, to any consumer out there, you want to be able to buy from somebody that you can rely on, somebody that is going to be here for the long term. We've been here 35 years, which is longer than any of those companies. But although those companies are good, and I don't have any reason to believe that they're not going to be here for another, 15, 20 years or 50 years. But we have been here 35 years. We've got a really good customer service group that's there to make sure that you enjoy the product you buy from us as you're meant to, as you deserve to. And I think that, in the overall scope of the fitness world, there aren't too many of us that have been around that long and that are catering to the home market as opposed to the commercial market.
Right. And I think there's also quite a bit of people who just simply buy fitness equipment from Amazon, not necessarily knowing where they're getting it from. And a lot of those companies will not be around in 10 to 15 years.
They won't. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to just hear your opinion on maybe like, you can take this how you want, but fitness resellers on Amazon.
It's like anything, you just want to make sure you trust your seller. And even on Amazon, as we know, there are some, not great actors out there that are selling stuff that's either, misnamed or poor. I mean, usually you can tell it when you read the description. It's the copy that's on the description for the product is not well written, or might even have grammar issues and what have you. But again, you want to know who you're buying from. We sell on Amazon. Our retailers sell on Amazon mostly from an equipment standpoint, but we have very limited retailers who we allow to sell on that. That said, and it's about maybe 15 different retailers that we allow to sell on Amazon. There are probably another 15 companies out there that we are aggressively trying to stop selling our product or stop listing our product because they don't have access to it. And typically, what's happening there is they're getting the order and they're saying, well, we can't get that product for you, but you know what? I've got this other product for you. It's a little bit of a bait and switch, and it's unfortunate that happens, and we're limited in how much we can do about it. But because Amazon's sometimes like talking to a stone wall. But again, if it's a good quality body solid retailer, and you can tell by the fact that they're on our retail our dealer locator, you're going to be fine buying from that.
Got it. Um, back to the retail side of things. When I think about like my area, there's not really many retail there's not really any fitness retailers that I just like immediately think of.
Mm-hmm.
And I live just outside of Indianapolis, so it's not like I live out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And so I imagine like most of the rest of the country is kind of like that. Just curious to like hear why you think that might be, considering it does seem like a really good option for a lot of people who don't quite understand what they're ordering online.
Yeah, I mean there are quality fitness retailers in in all major metropolitan areas. They do come and go a little bit. Frequently, a lot of them are one store operations where a fitness enthusiast said, "Hey, I love that. I'm already a personal trainer. Maybe my customers are interested in trying to find access to equipment. I like equipment. Why don't I put up a storefront?" And then lo and behold, there they are 30 years later, the Fitness X and company that is selling a product. But you're right. The fitness retailers as a whole, unfortunately, have suffered a lot because of the internet, not surprisingly. And I think we've seen this in a lot of other industries as well. And as the internet and as online purchasing is becoming such a big thing, and so accepted by the American population. I mean, I remember just being absolutely amazed when I joined this company 20 years ago that we were back in those days we were selling via mail order in some cases, and because the internet was we were putting ads in the back of magazines like Muscle and Fitness and what have you, and I was amazed that people would buy a treadmill online. And of course, today it doesn't seem like a big deal, but back in those days, I was like, "That's amazing! This is a $1,000 piece of equipment that's huge," and they're taking it, they're buying it online, sight unseen, not trying it. Something I don't particularly recommend. I mean, I think it's always great to be able to try it out if you can, because it's hard to return a treadmill if you don't like it. But the industry has absolutely shrunk on what we call the specialty retail business. The other thing is some of the big box stores, predominantly companies like Dick's, have gotten better at selling fitness, and I think that has hurt sporting goods in general. Stores that are in that market, whether it's small golf stores, small fitness stores, the larger box companies like Dick's, and some of the more regional ones like Shields, both of which are customers of ours, have certainly made it more difficult for the smaller retailer.
Okay. So I'd love to also just hear, like you mentioned, you kind of answered part of my next question was just like, did you notice like over time, like as the internet rose, your retail presence went down? And if so, you kind of answered that already, but like how important specifically is retail to you? Like if you had to shut down retail 100% tomorrow, would that make a big dent in your business or not?
It's hard for me to answer that specifically, because if I'm selling 100 benches to such and such a company, I don't know if they sold it out of their store, out of the internet. They might have even
Okay.
sold it on Amazon. But I will tell you that the most successful retailers that we have in this country right now I call it, basically it's a three-legged stool. They're selling online, they're selling in a store, and they're selling commercial as well. And if they've got all those in a good balance and they're addressing them well, they're likely to be a very strong retail partner for us and for whoever else they sell for. I think that there were days in the past. I don't know that there's that many that still exist of companies that only sold in stores and didn't even approach internet or didn't approach commercial. And I think that today most of the good ones have all three legs and are doing well. But it's retail is a very difficult industry. It's no matter what you're selling, but I do think that if they've got a good balance of those three legs, they have a high chance of being successful.
Gotcha. Um, does Body Solid sell throughout the world?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have distributors worldwide selling in 100 different countries. We actually have a couple of warehouses around the world, Australia, Europe, as well as in Asia. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the year. I would say that internationally has its ups and downs, just like the rest of the world. But for example, the Ukrainian war has really impacted things in Europe and Russia, obviously in Ukraine, which were all big customers for us, are big customers for us in the past. But in every part of the world's got different economic things going on, so it comes and goes. But it's been a very healthy portion of our business for a long time.
Is there like noticeable changes or differences, I should say, between like the U.S. and other countries throughout the world, or just
Yeah,
other
it's
countries?
really interesting because obviously we've just spent a good portion of the last minutes talking about Amazon. Well, Amazon certainly exists in all those other countries, but it's not nearly as predominant as it is here. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One of the reasons is that the shipping environment is different. They don't have the exact the quite the same ability for different reasons. Like in Europe, you've got a lot of borders that are really close to each other, so you've got some issues with that. We saw a lot in Australia. Australia's just got distance to accommodate that makes shipping more expensive and more difficult and more time consuming. So for example, the Amazon Prime get it today or tomorrow sort of thing doesn't exist. The other thing is that we as a country, and I'm not an expert on this, so don't I could probably somebody could poke holes in what I'm going to say here, but we as a country have embraced online shopping, I think more than a lot of other countries. And again, I'll call out Australia again because we have very specific experience there. There was a resistance. There has been a resistance in the past in Australia. They much more than your average consumer want to see it in a store. I will say though that COVID kind of broke a lot of that down because they couldn't go to stores anymore and people had to buy online. And so I think that we're seeing, and again, I don't have data, but anecdotally for the limited amount that we're selling in Australia, more acceptance of buying online in Australia than there was 5 years ago before COVID.
Interesting.
So yeah,
And
and to answer
then
your question, there's a lot of differences, but we go chapter and verse, country by country on how people approach these things.
is there anything that like people in America that makes them stand out versus other countries?
Well, I told you the one thing. And the other thing is we have more room. I will say that your average home in the United States is much larger than most parts of the world. We obviously have a tremendous amount of wealth as a country, within our population, and we have a culture that is slowly, certainly a large segment of it, but is growing in their interest and pursuit of fitness in general. But I would say that probably the biggest thing that helps the fitness industry, the home fitness industry, is that people have, they have a garage, and maybe it's a 2-car garage, might even be bigger, They have a basement. They might even have an extra room on the first floor. But they have the space to be able to put in a decent home gym, and they want to, and so they do. And so I think we've got such a, I mean, your podcast is a shining example of it. We've got a tremendous amount of interest and involvement in the home gym industry in all sorts of different ways. I mean,
Yeah.
I think didn't you just do you just did a podcast with the guys from GoRx.
Yeah.
I saw, and there's a really unique and interesting approach to the home gym that is I don't think that could happen anywhere else in the world.
Right. Yeah. Like who would have guessed 10 years ago that there'd be podcasts about home gyms
Yes.
or businesses to help other people create businesses out of their home gyms?
Well, let's we're all very familiar and comfortable with VRBO and Airbnb now, which is kind of what GoRx is pursuing in a different way. But I mean, that thought is I mean the way that has grown is just amazing. It's what's fun about being in business and trying to innovate is you see things like that and you're like, wow, that's a really neat idea. And and let's now what's the next one going to come? It's fun.
Yeah. Let's see. So while we're kind of talking about the market, I'd love to hear. So, like we have this event called Home Gym Con. We have like
Never heard of it.
followers,
Just kidding.
a whole like garage gym experiment. I kind of think of those types of people who are, we obviously have home gyms, but these are a little bit more specific to like strength training or like those who I like using a barbell for the most part, those types of lifters. And then on the other hand, you look at the Home Gym Con vendor list and you don't see any companies like Peloton or Tonal. Like those are just kind of a totally different league. And then you also have like, online workout classes. And so all of that, I'd love to hear like what proportion of the whole market, this is, I'm surely an impossible question to answer, but what would you guess would be the proportion of like those barbell lifters versus everybody else that has a home gym?
Yeah, you had mentioned this question to me before, and I've thought a lot about it. It's a great question, and I wish I knew. I think what I can answer to you is that it is growing, and it's growing a lot, and I think it's the interest that people have in it is it's not like, okay, I'm going to buy a power rack and whatever. And, we used to joke about how, the treadmill that so-and-so bought is just the greatest clothes hanger in the world because they bought it, they put it in the corner of the bedroom and they dump their clothes on it until laundry day. I'd say that the people who are definitely pursuing free weight training have a good example is the breadth and width of all of the various bars that are out there now. I mean, it used to be there was like one type of OB86 bar.
Yeah.
Now we've got just gazillions of OB86 bars. We're coming out with, or we've come out with, fat grip OB86 bars and other fat grip products like an OB48 and what have you. The trap bars, the safety squats, the amount of innovation. I think it doesn't get it gets talked about a lot in your end of the thing on podcasts and Reddit and what have you, but it doesn't get as much publicity outside of that. I don't believe it deserves more. The amount of innovation there has been just in barbells is just astounding. Again, I should have counted this up. I mean, we used to have your standard 5 to 10 Olympic size and regular size bars, curl bar, OB86 bar, short, bent curl bars, etc. Now we've got, I don't know, we probably have about 50 different bars that we're selling. It's crazy. But in answer to your question, and I don't, it's not a very good answer, but we talked about this earlier. I mean, I think that from going back 20 years ago, again, I think that free weights were, there was an unfounded reputation for it's a bunch of meatheads. It's people who are looking to get big and be the next Arnold or whatever it is. I think that it's now come into the mainstream as one of the many options there are in fitness. Strength training is, as we all know, is very important, particularly as you get older. And I think that people are understanding that, and so they're pursuing strength training. And once people start getting into strength training and they realize that, okay, a home gym, again, a selectorized or stack weight home gym can do so much for me. A functional trainer can do a little bit more for me, but really where I want to be is doing the free weights, because that's going to be at the end of the day one of the better exercises. You see people who never would have even touched free weights 20 years ago putting a power rack into their house or into their garage, and I think that the interest is much higher than it's been, and I can't imagine it's not going to continue to grow.
And did you see that spike during COVID, or has it been more of a
It's
steady
been a
rise?
steady growth. I would say again, I may be wrong. At least from our personal experience, we saw a really big spike when CrossFit started getting developed, which is probably 15 years ago, maybe. I think when they really started becoming mainstream within the United States, because they really a lot of their workouts of the day focused on strength training and specifically free weight training. They obviously have cardio components as well. But a good example of why, for example, the fan bike was a cardio piece that it's been around for, God, probably, 40, 50 years at least. I'm not really sure how long they've been around, but they saw a huge resurgence because CrossFit put it into one of their workouts of the day, and all of a sudden, everybody wants them. We saw, about 20 years ago, a little less than 20 years ago, kettlebells. Kettlebells have been around since the 1800s. All of a sudden, kettlebells became a thing because, and it's not just CrossFit, but it's because companies out there, a lot of them emulating, the type of CrossFit model, are creating workout communities that are focused on a particular element of workouts. A lot of those kettlebell focused ones aren't as prevalent as they are today. But once they got kettlebells into the mainstream, now kettlebells are part of everybody's strength workouts these days.
You had to give if you had to give it a number of those barbell lifters, would you say like 20%?
Well, I will say that it's probably. I'm just going to guess. Yeah, I'm really guessing. I think it's at least a third, if not
A
more.
third.
Yeah.
And where was it? Where was it 10 years ago before CrossFit? Or 20 years
I
ago?
bet you it was 10%. But I'm totally guessing.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. There's. I have to look. Because there may be some data out there. I don't know if you're familiar with the SFIA, Sports and Fitness Industry Association, and I should be familiar with us because I'm on their board. But they actually do publish some really good data related to the sporting goods industry as a whole, but also the fitness industry. And they do have some data on specific. I believe, though, I don't think they break it down between functional training and free weights and regular home gyms. They do break out strength training versus, say, cardio and other sports. And I do know that strength training continues to grow substantially. And particularly, it's interesting. A few months ago, they were saying that that Ozempic and all the other diet drugs were going to affect the fitness industry because people don't want to, if they're going to spend money to lose weight, I'd rather take a pill than work out. And that made sense logically. But now, literally only 6 months later, we're hearing, yeah, but Ozempic also takes away muscle mass. And it's vital that if you're on those drugs, you need to be doing strength training at the same time. So what was a negative 6 months ago for the strength training industry all of a sudden is becoming a positive. And we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll change again in 6 months. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It just doesn't seem right to just take a pill and you're all good.
Well,
What
and I
about?
think that sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say that pill doesn't give you the same sense of accomplishment, good good feelings, and just making your whole life feel better that I think a good workout does. And those of you who are listening, I know what I'm talking about. Those of you who, if you see this 5 years from now when you finally get into working out on a regular basis, work out, man.
No, I mean personally, I work out more for my
Yes.
mental health than anything.
If
If
I
I
go a
don't
day without it, I just I don't I'm out of sorts. Kick the dog.
foggy. Yeah, agree. Was there any more specific changes since COVID that you would want to mention?
Well, COVID was so weird because fitness products in general got so hard for people to get, and there was such a high demand that you saw just weird things happening. So early days of COVID, I would say that power racks, free weights, Smith machines went like hotcakes.
Yeah,
I can't speak for other companies, but I can speak for ourselves. We started running out of those. People started turning to functional trainers. We started running out of those.
I just
People started buying home gyms when home gyms had kind of taken a dip. From the their heyday was probably the early 2000s. Through maybe say 2010 ish. I'm guessing, and while they're still out there and still a wonderful product, they were beginning to take a little bit of a backseat to functional training and to free weights and power X and what have you. And but they came back like amazingly strong, kind of in the second half of COVID, but then COVID ended. People started getting outside again. People started spending money. This is an economic truth. They stopped spending money as much on hard goods and started spending money again on things like travel and entertainment and what have you, because they were starved for that at that point in time. So we saw, a little bit of a hangover after COVID ended, or after the pandemic released, that in less sales of fitness products in general overall. And now as we're coming back again, it's more back to a normal environment now. And I think that you're seeing a more healthy split between the three different types of training that I'm talking about. I think you continue to see. I think a lot of what's changing in our industry as a whole is more driven by what I call programming. And for example, Peloton is probably the chief programming company out there. They created a whole element of working out. Initially on a spin bike. That was engaging people, creating a social environment. They did a really good job of that. There's many, many others out there that are doing it. And so we're seeing, things like, CrossFit, of course, is still out there. But we're seeing a lot of what's changing in our industry being as much driven by that as, what's the latest trend in the online workout community. I talked earlier about kettlebells. Kettlebells went from well, for us, nothing to a big sale number for us, and continues to be a big sale number for us because they got hot in the programming community. They got hot out there in the industry that was trying to engage people into fitness, and I think that that continues today. The goal, once you get somebody hooked on fitness, once you pull them into the family, most of them are going to stay. You and I just talked about how we feel like we're out of sorts if we don't get our workout in on a regular basis, and I think that's what hopefully happens. And I think that you see people are going back to the gyms. That doesn't mean that the home gym is going to have problems. I think people are going back to the gyms because they want the social aspect of it. There's obviously a lot of options at a gym that even the best home gym can't offer. But I think also what you're seeing is those people, once they get hooked in, what they really want is they want to be able to work out where they want to work out when they want to work out, and that means they're going to have something at home. They might have a club or a small studio membership. They might very well work for a company that is putting in a fitness studio because they want you to come back to the office, and you're saying, I don't want to go back to the office.
Yeah.
But you want to be able to, I'm going to have my workout clothes in the car, and gee, I've got an hour until my next meeting. Let's see, what can I do? Let's go. Where am I?
Yeah.
I'm traveling. I'm in Chicago. I live somewhere else. Well, where can I go? I'll get on ClassPass and see if I can go. I'll get on GoRx and see if I can go use someone's home gym, and I'll get my workout in, and then I'll go on to my next meeting. So,
Right. Um, well, what about, I mean, the last thing I have here is just how do you think it will change over the next 10 to 20 years?
again, that's a very difficult question to
Right.
answer. It's a great question. I talked a second ago about programming. I think a lot of it will be driven by programming. I think we're on the verge of getting, connected fitness is and will continue to be a big part of fitness in general. I think today it's by, 90% of its impact is on the cardio side, because cardio is just a little bit easier to engage. I think we are on the cusp of a couple of potential technologies, particularly with the assistance of AI and so forth, that will allow the strength industry to finally, take advantage of it as well. We've had rep counters and things like that for years, which is fine, but it's, if you can't remember that you did 10 reps, you're probably, you probably shouldn't be doing the exercise. But, we've not pursued that. But there are some interesting emerging technologies, I think, that will hopefully, make the the strength side of the fitness market more connected. And I part of me is hopeful. And I mentioned that once you pull somebody into the family, that you're gonna find a place to whether it's a home gym or whatever, you're gonna develop as many ways to work out as you can. And I strongly believe, and I hope that family just keeps getting bigger. You look at all generations these days in different ways, shapes, or form are finding reasons to work out. Older generations understand now that strength, much more than previous generations, that strength training, and cardio training is key to them living and living a quality life, not just living, but living a quality life, into their 80s and 90s, that you're not going to fall and break your hip and have those issues. People who are, in the 20 to 40 generation, I think most of them have bought in. There's others that, there's people that don't, that still need to buy in, but they're making fitness part of their life, and that's just going to continue. And as those people, mature and do things like buy houses for the first time, they will, they're going to put a home gym in. So I think that, that's not a change, other than the fact that I just hope that the concept of having a home gym, I would hope will be, like having a kitchen. That
Yeah.
is something you have in your house. Hope that answers your question.
That'd be great for society, I think.
I agree.
No, that helps answer it. Yeah, impossible question to answer. I think if you knew, you wouldn't really. You'd try and keep some of that to yourself. But
Yeah.
cool.
Maybe we'll graduate to the point in time where we can just put all the politicians in a home gym, and whoever can do the most reps gets to speak first.
There you go. I like that. Cool. Well, I think we talked about a lot of great topics. Cool to hear from an industry veteran, someone who's been doing this for a while. Anything before we go that you'd like to share or say?
Boy, it's funny. I don't think anyone's called me an industry veteran to my face, but I guess after 20 years I can say that. But it's it's such a as well as I do. It's just it's an awesome industry to be a part of. It's great to be able to sell something that is going to hopefully improve someone's life. I mean, I don't want to be Pollyannish about it, but it's that charges my batteries every morning when that's what we're doing. And I encourage your listeners and viewers to check us out. We're bodysolid.com. We're on all the social media. Follow us. We've got, if you need it, I'm 99% chance we've got it. and we're going to be here to support it. We make really good products, and hope you give us a shot next time you're thinking about us.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, I'll make sure to plug in your links. Just bodysolid.com though.
Yes, and we're on
And
all the social media as well, and we're fun to follow because we come out with somewhere between 20 and 30 new products every year, and so it's worth following us because we might come out with the one you're looking for pretty soon. You never know.
great. Cool. Well, that's going to do it. Thanks again for your time,
All
Scott.
right, thank you very much. It's been great to talk to you, Jake.